The Senate hearing that just took place involving Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, General Dan Caine, and other top defense officials did not go well for them. It did not go well for the Trump regime. Even MAGA Republicans were calling them out for allowing Iran to control the Strait of Hormuz. Lindsey Graham, MAGA Republican Trump sycophant, was cross-examining Hegseth and Caine. And Lindsey Graham said, no wonder this damn thing is going nowhere because of you and how the Trump regime is handling this. Watch what Lindsey Graham says. Here, play this clip.
Pakistan. Are you aware of reports that Pakistan are allowing their bases to be used to park Iranian aircraft? General Caine?
Sir, I've seen one report on that.
Well, is it accurate?
Sir, I think based on the variety of classification matters.
Let me just say, do you agree if it is accurate, that is sort of inconsistent with it being a peace mediator?
Sir, I wouldn't want to comment on that based on the ongoing negotiations and Pakistan's role.
Secretary Hegseth, if the mediator is allowing reconnaissance aircraft in Iran to be parked in Pakistani air bases, do you think that's consistent with being a fair mediator?
I wouldn't want to get in the middle of these negotiations.
Yeah.
I want
well, I
maximum
do.
efficacy
I
for
want
our
to get in the
people.
middle of these negotiations. I don't trust Pakistan as far as I can throw them. If they actually do have Iranian aircraft parked in Pakistan bases to protect Iranian military assets, that tells me we should be looking maybe for somebody else to mediate. No wonder this damn thing is going nowhere.
Then you had Democratic senators like Senator Reid cross-examining Hegseth and Caine and some of the other top Defense Department officials here about how they are understating the costs of the war by billions of dollars by not including critical things that cost money, that now the $29 billion estimate, which went up $5 billion or $4 billion just during the hearing itself, is completely understating things. Here, play this clip.
Mr. Secretary, we have been trying to track down the expenditures in the Operation Epic Fury and Operation Freedom now. And we've sent letters and we've got very few responses. We've been sending letters since March 10th. We did understand that there was released that in the first 6 days, $11.3 billion was spent. And then recently we were told $25 billion was spent. Today, I think the number is $29 billion. Can you provide some details as to what consists of that $29 billion? Have we counted everything?
Yeah, Senator Reid. So I testified this morning to HACD that between the Joint Staff and the Comptroller staff, our operational cost estimate is now $29 billion. A lot of that increase comes from having a refined estimate on repair and replacement costs for equipment. Our munitions costs are fairly fixed. We think they're very accurate, and there's some O&M costs there as well. We're not making an estimate for MILCON at this time. We don't know what our future posture is going to be. We don't know how those bases would be reconstructed, and we don't know what percentage our allies and partners will pay for that reconstruction.
So you do not consider installations that have been damaged in the conflict, correct?
We just don't have a good estimate at this time.
So it's not in the $29 billion.
That's correct.
Expended weapons, are they totally included within the estimate?
Yes, to the best of my knowledge, we have a full count of the expended weapons.
And weapons transferred to other countries in the region, are they counted in?
I would want to double check to make sure we have that accurately.
Please. I mean, you're coming up and asking for another significant supplemental, et cetera. And before we can, I think, reasonably appropriate additional money, we have to find out how the existing appropriated dollars have been spent. So that's critically important.
And here was the moment where the top Defense Department officials start to admit that actually, yeah, we said it was $25 billion, but now it's actually more. Here, listen to what they had to say here. Let's play this clip.
On April 29th, as you indicated to the ranking member, you said that the Iran war had cost $25 billion in total. You reaffirmed that today. Do you have any other updated costs or projections since that testimony that you've given? Outside reporting estimates have indicated that the war costs could be $1 billion a day. Do you have anything to share?
Yeah, thanks for the question, sir. So at the time of testimony in front of the ask, it was $25 billion. But the Joint Staff team and the Comptroller team are constantly looking at that estimate. And so now we think it's closer to 29. That's because of updated repair and replacement of equipment costs, and also just general operational costs to keep people in theater.
Then you had Democratic Senator Murphy, and here he cross-examined General Caine and Hegseth. Let's watch this.
Drone program. The president said just a week ago that Iran maybe had 18 to 19% of their missile capacity left. But there is public reporting suggesting that our intelligence agencies say that Iran still has 70% of their missile and drone capability, which would be a failure of our objectives if that were to be true. What can you tell us about the number of missiles and drones that they have left, and do you dispute that intelligence estimate?
Sir, I'm not going to comment, with deep respect for the question, I'm not going to comment in this forum on what may or may not have been opined on by the IC, which would suggest a leak or a confirmation of any intel. So while I appreciate the question, I hope you'll also appreciate my not answering it.
Well, then just give me the president said that 80% of
I'm not going to comment on BDA on either way, sir.
Well, then how do we or the American public assess the success of the mission when you've stated publicly the purpose of the mission is to destroy their missile and drone capability? How do we assess whether we should continue funding this if you can't state?
Well, I'm not going to answer what you guys in the Congress considers the decision criteria around continued funding or not. What I know is that I've not read the report that you're talking about. All of our battle damage assessment matters are classified, and it would be inappropriate for me to comment in this forum on that. And I appreciate the question, but I'm not going to answer it.
Let me just put it to Secretary Hegseth. The president said that 80% of their missile capacity had been destroyed. This public report says it's only 30%. Can you give us an answer as to what the real number is?
I mean, I would answer the same way as the chairman.
Not talking to this committee about the damage assessment.
Not validating leaked information that could be wrong or not wrong. Why would I validate what people may leak or not leak? This is not a classified setting. We don't talk about those things. And you like to talk about them on TV. We don't talk about them here.
Then we heard from Democratic Senator Coons, who, called out Hegseth, who, served in Afghanistan, and said, you love to bash NATO, but you do realize that NATO was on the front lines of the war with us, and our NATO allies, they lost a ton of service members. Do you recall that? And then Hegseth's like, I don't have the numbers in front of me. And again, the Trump regime continuing to attack NATO, and just look how just utterly foolish and, just unprepared and just deranged these Trump regime Defense Department officials look. Play this clip.
Becoming a burden with political limitations. I'm not talking about the troops.
Thank you. Our president said in Europe that we never asked for and never received anything from our NATO allies. Was that your experience in Afghanistan, serving and fighting alongside our NATO allies?
I've written extensively about that, and the vast majority of my experience was frustration with the limits of what those troops were able to do because of the political caveats, rules of engagement, and limits that came from their capitals.
But you don't doubt our question that about a third of all the combat casualties in our war in Afghanistan were our NATO partners and allies.
I would have to go back and check that number, but I take your word for it.
Let me just assert that hundreds and hundreds of service members from, as you put it, Australia, the United Kingdom, as well as many other of our allies, served, fought, and died alongside us. So I'm just going to simply say, in terms of our reliance on our partnerships, I'll agree with the chairman that at a moment when Russia and China, North Korea and Iran are coming closer together and delivering a bedeviling lethality in this ongoing war in Iran, for which we don't have a clear strategy or clear answers, Our better strategy would be to partner more closely with Ukraine, dig in deeper with our real values-based allies, our treaty allies in the Western Pacific and in Europe, and together find a path out of this rather than berating them and bullying them for not coming along in a war they were not consulted about or briefed on before it began.
Then you had Democratic Senator Durbin cross-examining the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, Dan Caine, who they call Raisin Caine. Durbin has a basic question. So could you explain to the American people why this vast investment that you're coming here asking for a lot more money, right? You want a $1 trillion defense budget right now. Last year it was $1 trillion. The year before that it was $700 million. If y'all can't, open up the Strait of Hormuz, why should we give you more money? If the last time we gave you $1 trillion, this is the result. Watch this. Let's play it.
Could you explain to the American people why, with the vast investment we've made in national defense and military, how Iran, after they've been attacked by us, is still capable of stopping the traffic in the Straits of Hormuz?
Well, sure. It's a complex situation out there with a lot of different small boats that are out there and other capabilities. Some of this is on the commercial traffickers. Some of this is on, again, back to the main problem, and that's Iran holding the global economy hostage through the Straits. I would encourage them to think wisely about their next moves and to take the opportunity to open the Straits. They have that choice to make.
They certainly do. I guess the question in my mind is, as we talk about trillion-dollar-plus budgets for our military, it appears that a very small budget is holding us hostage in the Straits of Hormuz.
Then Hegseth said, though, I just want to remind Senator Durbin, we've been at war with Iran for 47 years. So it's actually a 47-year war. That's their line that they repeat over and over again. We've been at war for 47 years. This is just part of a 47-year war. And they use that to justify everything here. Let's play this clip.
As it pertains to, I actually didn't get a chance to reply to Senator Durbin, who said that Iran was attacked by us. I would take issue with that. For 47 years, we've been attacked by Iran, and they've been lying to pursue a nuclear weapon, and President Trump had the courage to do something about it.
Then more from Hegseth, getting performatively indignant, as Rupert puts it, instead of answering very basic questions from Senator Chris Coons. Let's play it.
The connection between their ability to close the Strait of Hormuz using fast boats and Shahed drones and our strategic goal, shared broadly, to prevent them from ever having a usable nuclear weapon is utterly unclear to me. And my question was, what's the plan for reopening the Strait of Hormuz to commercial traffic, given skyrocketing
broadly, but never
prices?
executed. Shared broadly, but never executed, because previous administration didn't have the willingness to actually do what it would take. When Iran was at its weakest moments following the 12-day war, but still wanted the pursuit of a nuclear capability, President Trump made the courageous decision to go at their conventional umbrella and shield, which they were using to protect their nuclear program, which we knew came with threats and branches and sequels.
My concern, Mr. Secretary.
Then you had some cross-examination by Senator Murkowski, Republican. Let's play this clip.
It doesn't appear that hostilities have ended. And so the question to you is whether or not the administration has considered or had intended to seek an authorization of use of military force from the Congress.
Senator, our view is that should the president make the decision to recommence, that we would have all the authorities necessary to do so.
Do you think that it would be helpful to the president if it was made clear that in fact the Congress did provide an AUMF?
I think the president, our view is that he has all the authorities he needs under Article 2.
And then you had Democratic Senator Shaheen from New Hampshire cross-examining Hegseth right here. Let's play this clip.
Senator, we know Russia is a nefarious actor on a lot of levels and account for that, but I would say the destruction of Iran's defense industrial base has been highly
all
effective
evidence to the contrary. We're not accounting for that if we're giving Russia the opportunity to earn $4 billion a month, $20 billion by the end of the year if we leave those sanctions lifted for that time,
Saying the
during which they can continue to fund Iran.
Well, the destruction
They
of
can
defense
continue
of
to
Iran's
provide
defense
oil
industrial
to
base
China.
has been clear and overwhelming. The destruction of Iran's defense industrial base has been clear and overwhelming.
Well, it's certainly not clear to me as a member of the committee, because what we see is Iran still producing drones. They're still engaged in this conflict. We have not won this war.
There's a difference between
the rhetoric.
pulling a drone out of a cave that's been collapsed and producing more drones. That's a different thing.
Well, maybe so. But if Iran still has almost 50% of their missile capacity and the ability to pull drones out of caves and still injure our allies and U.S. service members, then we have not won the war.
And then Senator Patty Murray said, so is it your position that Americans should be giving up their health care, their Medicare, Medicaid, and other monies that they need to live to give the military $1.5 trillion? Like, you're okay with that? Let's play this clip.
Right now, Mr. Secretary, people are paying $4, $5, even $6, $7 for gas, and American taxpayers are now on the hook as well for paying for this disastrous war. You're spending families' hard-earned tax dollars on a war that many strongly oppose, and you're forcing people to pay more at the pump, and yet you're not even providing a real breakdown for the cost of this war so far. We have no real details. You have indicated that. And yet now you want Congress to send you $1.5 trillion more. To me, that is unacceptable. And I hope our Republican colleagues will join us in not only rejecting that absurd request, but in insisting that the American people get the actual answers on how much money, their money, we are spending on this. Now, let me turn and say, Secretary Hegseth, the president has called Medicaid, Medicare, and child care little scams and said, quote, we're fighting wars, we cannot take care of daycare. I'm just trying to understand that. Is it your position, since you're asking taxpayers for another $500 billion for the war, that American families should be forced to give up child care and health coverage so that you can have $1.5 trillion for this budget?
Senator, that's not my department. I certainly support this, and I also support the president's efforts to find and remove fraud wherever possible in a general sense.
I'm not talking
and we
about
do that
fraud.
in our department as well.
I'm not talking about fraud. I actually asked whether an American family should lose their health care or their child care to pay for this budget. That is literally what the president suggested.
The president has proposed a historic $1.5 trillion budget that will defend the nation and confront threats like Iran, which previous presidents allowed to happen, as Senator Graham pointed out. Previous administrations said they wanted to take care of this problem, and they did not, and he's doing it.
This committee, the question in front of the American people is, what are they being asked to give up for this $1.5 trillion? That's where I was talking about. And
then Hegseth makes it clear under questioning from Senator Coons that he's still refusing to spend congressionally allocated funds to support Ukraine. Let's play it.
For Ukraine. So far, your department has not spent a dime of that $400 million, despite repeated follow-up requests from the chairman and myself. In a call just last week, your staff indicated we will see a spend plan for those funds this week. Will you commit to spending those $400 million for weapons for Ukraine? And when will we receive your department's spend plan?
I appreciate that question. The $400 million for European capacity building has been released from the Secretary of War's office, and we'll work with EUCOM to make sure they spend it accordingly and properly, which we have all faith that they will.
Mr. Secretary, when will this subcommittee get the associated spend plan for the $400 million?
Yeah, I mean, we will work with your committee to make sure that the spend plan as allocated, I want to make sure EUCOM is fully informed in how they want to spend this. They're the closest to the problem set. And so working with them to ensure that you have the spend plan, we'll work with you.
Mr. Secretary, thank you, but it's May, and this has been the law since January, and you or your representatives have been asked this repeatedly on a bipartisan basis by members of this committee. And I think dragging our feet on this small investment in Ukraine's defense sends exactly the wrong signal to Putin at a time when the contest for freedom has its front lines in Ukraine.
Then when you had Hegseth in front of the Democratic Appropriations Committee, you'll see over here as Congressman Aguilar asking very basic questions like, will you provide us an accounting? Hegseth's like, when it's relevant and required. And then Congressmember Aguilar's like, yeah, that's what this hearing is about. It's this. This is where it's relevant and required. This is the hearing where you tell oversight what you're doing. Here, play this clip.
Mr. Secretary, when can you share more formal accounting on the cost of the war with Congress and with this committee?
We'll share what we can. I think we've updated on that number this morning, but when it's relevant and required, we will share it.
I think this would be the format that it would be required.
And then you had Senator McConnell in just really bad shape. Completely. I mean, he and Donald Trump look very, very similar right now, in my opinion. And here, McConnell basically says, all right, we're going to shut down this hearing now. And there were still like multiple people who had questions. And then his staff had to be like, there are other people in the room. Do you see the other people in the room? Kind of the same stuff we're seeing from Donald Trump as well. Here's what McConnell says. Let's play it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, here's where we are. The vote is about over. The Secretary has to get with the President on the China trip. I'm going to ask Senator Murkowski to wrap up. And thank you all for being here.
Baldwin, Shaheen, and Kennedy. Baldwin, Shaheen, and Kennedy still have questions. Wrap up after.
Let me see what I'm being told here. Yeah, obviously there's not a whole lot of time for a second round, so we'll get through everybody. And Senator Murkowski, I appreciate your taking over.
Thank you. Secretary Hegseth, Chairman Caine, thank you for being here today.
There you have it, folks. Let me know what you think about all of this. Now hit subscribe, help us get to 7 million subscribers, and thank you all so much for watching.
Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MeidasPlus.com.